Okay, hello, my name is Matthew, and I'm pleased to be joined with my friend Ami. His channel is, what is your channel's name again?
Ami1649.
Ami1649.
9. Yeah.
My name is Matthew. I'm here with my friend Ami, and we're just going to talk about our year of reading. It's kind of a end of year wrap up, and I've read lots of great books, interesting things. Ami, I'm sure as well, and we're just gonna have a conversation. So, Ami, let me ask you, uh, just in general, how do you feel about your reading year?
I feel great. I think that out of all the booktubers, I'm one of the least voracious readers. So I don't think my numbers are impressive. But subjectively, like for me, I'm very happy with it, you know.
Okay.
Um,
Uh,
so that,
by the numbers, do you have a number?
they like a rough number. I think the rough number, I'm sort of looking at a list I made before we started, just to um, is probably like 24,
Okay.
which is probably like sounds minuscule to most of this audience. But that's just that's just what my reading year was, and that's a good reading year for me. 24, 25 books a year. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and it depends on, of course, the quality of the books, but also the length, um, and it doesn't matter at all. Um, I
I'm
don't
just
keep any kind of log. Do you keep a log? Do you write down the books that
No, I
you
just I just before
yeah.
this meeting I tried to go through like my library loans and ebooks and things like that to just try to and like bookshelf to like make a quick list. So that number is it could be a little more than that. It probably is a little more than that, but not much more. But yeah.
My number, and I did something similar where I just went through. I used my YouTube channel, like the videos, as like its own recording process, and so I just like scrolled through and wrote everything out. The number was 35, um, and again maybe a little bit more, but um, compared to a lot of voracious readers, like my number is still like one of those pipsqueak numbers too, and I don't care at all.
Yeah. That's good.
um, and do you think your reading has changed from the beginning of the year to the end of the year?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, a bunch of the books I read this year were about meditation and Buddhism, uh, which was like a brand new topic to me this year. I think, when I look back at this year, that was just like a new interest. So a lot of my reading was that. And then half the books that I read, at least not about half, I would say, were for these interviews
Right.
that I did. Which was, yeah, like a totally different way to read, you know. So basically all nonfiction, and read with like the intent of like coming up with questions, to ask the author, which is like, total, and books that I wouldn't have picked up otherwise. So yeah, totally different, from the way the year started, for example.
And that kind of reading um, is for entertainment and for pleasure, but you're also reading it much more critically and poring over it, studying it, taking notes, and all of that as well, right?
Not necessarily. It depends. It depends. I
Okay.
mean, sometimes you can think of examples where I feel like I am pouring over, but often the opposite is true. Often I can read it much faster. And, if something doesn't like fully make sense or I don't fully get, then like that becomes a question for the author, and
Okay.
I don't really need to pour over it. Um, because I have like this like backup plan, so to speak, of like, I can like go through the book quickly, and then ask questions to the author, and like,
It's
'cause-
almost like an easy out when you know at the end of the experience you can say to like question the author. How
yeah.
come this didn't make sense?
Right. Like I shouldn't get something, or something it becomes a question that I just ask instead of having to go back
Huh.
and figure it out. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, What are you reading right now?
I'm in the middle of a book called Major Labels, which I'm really enjoying. I have it by my bed. I just finished a book behind me, which I also really enjoyed. Hold on one second. I'm gonna grab it. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So Major Labels is about the history of like music in 6 genres. It's great. The publisher sent it to me. I
Huh.
reached out to the author for an interview and he declined for the interview, but they sent me a copy of the book, which I was happy to get and read. And this book
What's the name of
is,
the?
oh, sorry, the name of the author? Is that what
Yeah.
you're gonna ask?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I could
Okay.
I could Google it. So yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember his name. Um, and this book, I finished some parts. I definitely had to skim, because it's like a really dense academic kind of book. But it's called The Economics of Meaning in Life, by Dr. Joel Voss, and this hopefully will be for an interview. And I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited about the prospect of potentially interviewing this author. So
Is that a textbook?
it's sort of a textbook, yeah. Basically, it's a book about the intersection of economics and psychology, basically. Um, I don't know what makes it a textbook or not. Like it's like a pretty academic work, you know.
Okay.
I guess it could be used as a textbook. I don't know. It's like technically a textbook. Yeah, I'll just hold it up.
And you finished? You've that's the book that you've just finished.
Yeah. I just finished like the afterword here. Um, and yeah, super interesting stuff. So yeah, that's my answer.
So I started in the past day or two. I started reading A Christmas Carol.
Hmm.
Um, and before I picked it up, I have a copy of it. It's part of like a box set with Charles Dickens volumes. And before I picked it up, I wasn't even sure if I had read it before. Um, I've seen different iterations. I've seen movies. I know the story. I'm really familiar with it. I didn't know how long it was, so maybe 15 years ago, if it was a 20-page short story, I could have read it and completely had forgotten. I started it and very quickly realized, no, I've never read it before. Uh, and I started reading it right after Crime and Punishment. And I always find Dostoevsky, uh, when I finish one of Dostoevsky's books, he's such a tough act to follow,
Hmm.
um, especially if you don't give enough breathing time. And I really didn't like it.
Mm.
And I stopped reading it, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to finish it. I did one of those, like at the halfway point, checking how much is left, which is like an incredibly DMing action to perform with a book. At the very beginning, have you read A Christmas Carol?
No.
Um, at the very beginning of it, you have that really distinctive Dickensian voice. So he's um, very much telling you a story, and it's going to be this ghost story. And he mentions that there's a character, and he uses like the colloquial expression, says he's dead as a doornail. And then Dickens like starts riffing, like almost as like an aside, and going, well, what's the deal with dead as a doornail? Like, shouldn't it be dead as a coffin nail? Isn't a coffin nail a much more sepulchral nail than a doornail? And then like goes back to the story, and I I I don't know if it was jarring because of going from Dostoevsky to this book or not. I think it was part of it, but I just found it so off-putting.
Hmm.
Um, like I'm telling you a yarn. There's gonna be funny parts. There's parts that are funny, you know. And in the back of my mind, when I'm reading things now, I always kind of at least a little bit think about maybe I'll be making a video out of it. maybe I'll make a video and talk about A Christmas Carol. I thought it'd be fun to read it this time of year. I thought I was going to love it. I thought I'd make a little Christmas time video. And I stopped reading it just because I'm not enjoying it. But I also thought, like, I don't want to make a video criticizing A Christmas Carol. And the book is so, like, critic proof. So if you don't like A Christmas Carol, the immediate response is, well, you're a Scrooge.
Right.
It's big built in.
Right.
I was like, I don't even want to
That's
touch it. Like,
hilarious. That's hilarious. Oh my God. You should do it. You should dress up as Scrooge.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
I'd have to finish the book. Um,
I don't
and
believe in that.
yeah,
I don't
well, I
know.
don't know. I think if you're going to be talking about it,
Yeah, that's people will complain, but I like shooting from the hip, I love when people, I don't know. I can see both sides. I can see both
uh,
sides for sure.
talking to you about it now, right now, is a nice backdoor way of complaining about the book without doing the video.
Yeah, well, it's fun to hear, and also because you said it like so well that Dostoevsky is like so commanding in his like narrative voice, that it is like a hard act to follow for sure.
The thing with Dostoevsky, like, hitting that little bit of like humor in Dickens, like, at the very beginning, like, there's going to be parts that are funny. I'm going to tell you this entertaining story. And Dickens is known for, these big long books, complicated uh, uh, plot lines, and deeply psychological characters and all that. Um, but they're also tremendously entertaining, and moments that are genuinely really funny, like hilarious moments. And not with Dostoevsky riffing off of dead doornails and
Right,
coffin nails. Like,
right.
that's like such a cheap way of doing it. Like, he builds up these like really satisfying emotional moments, whether
Hmm.
it's serious or funny.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, just like imagining Dickens like chuckling to himself. This is
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah, that's funny.
Um,
You asked me if my reading changed from the beginning to the end of the year. So same question to you. Has your reading evolved over the year?
I feel like I had a very adventurous, varietal reading year. Um, I read a handful of comic books, which, at least in my adult reading life, I hadn't done, or graphic novels. Um, and probably the best reading experience that I had this year was reading The Lord of the Rings. And I don't read very much. Um, I don't read any fantasy. Um, so I feel like I kind of dipped my toe in different formats and genres and learned a lot. Uh, I like, for the longest time, I thought the Lord of the Rings movies were enough. Like, I had seen the movies and thought, that's good, I get it. And then realizing, like, no, these books are incredible. Um, so much, there's so much in them. It's a whole world. Have you read these Lord of the Rings books?
Nope. I read The Hobbit,
Um,
but I don't know if that counts.
I read The Hobbit this year, and then I like the Shire. That was the main thing that I wanted to read the Lord of the Rings. Like, I wanted to go back to these like funny little hobbits.
Mm.
They eat lots of meals. They smoke their pipe. They like to drink beer. They're really social.
I didn't like the movies though, so that like never. I was never so interested in the book.
The Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
movies.
I never liked the Lord of the Rings movies. I don't know why.
Um, well, that's sort of the thing. Like, I liked them, but I didn't think they were amazing. Like, it was sort of um, 2 hours. Okay, that's what it's about. I don't need to spend any more time with these characters. Um, I found the books to be much better, and they um, those hobbits have a sneaky way of like sucking you into the story for me anyway. Um, because it grows, it expands in this whole world when it starts off with just like this funny little hobbit. Um, the comic books, do you read comic books?
No, not really.
Um,
No, yeah, basically never.
I read three or four graphic novels. I read two Batman graphic novels and two Superman graphic novels, and the artwork, at varying degrees, was pretty much just impressive. I was really, um, um, in some ways, like blown away by how much the artwork elevated the format. The story in just a few that I read, the storylines in each one um, was such a consistent disappointment.
Mm,
Uh, the characters are great because they're these iconic. You know, Batman's a cool character. Superman's an interesting character. Um, they would have great premises, really interesting ideas, and then um, the 20 pages or 40 pages of this is the story that we're going to tell was always so disappointing.
mm,
Um, and I was also reading like the iconic ones, the big ones, the ones that people say like, if you want to read Batman, this is the one you read. If you want to read Superman, um, and I'm interested in like seeing more artwork and enjoying that aspect of it. Um, but I don't think there was very much, um, not much of a narrative in any of them.
hmm. That's interesting. You mentioned that you didn't finish a Christmas Carol. What are there any other books you didn't finish this year? You started but didn't finish?
Well, I think um, for March of the Mammoths, I think that was this year. I started reading Clarissa by Samuel Richardson, which are you familiar with the book?
No.
Um, it's like one notable feature is that it's length. It's like 1,600 or 1,800 pages. It's gargantuan.
Okay.
Um, and I read about a third of it and was bored to tears. Um, the writing was indescribably beautiful,
Hmm.
but for something that long, I read, I don't know, like 400 pages or s- something like that, and it's this girl in her room. I barely remember, but she's in her room. She doesn't want to be in the room. She leaves the room. She's not happy out of the room. She goes back in the room. Someone that she maybe loves, they love her. They don't really love her. She's writing these letters. The letters that she's writing, she's really self-aware of how good of a writer she is, which is interesting in some ways. But um, it's almost like the length of the novel is a direct reflection of the character being so pleased with her own writing that there are these really long letters, like she needs an editor.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought I just put it down because I wasn't enjoying it, and I thought uh, it's going to be another 800 pages before she leaves the room again.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought to myself like I'm reading this for like a YouTube event. I want to finish it in the month. Not that I read any faster, but um, I was like dedicating large portions of my day uh, to reading it. Whereas when the book came out, it was serialized.
Mm.
And so the reading experience would have been stretched out over a year or, however long. And it has to affect the impression of the story. And also Samuel Richardson's um, awareness of like how it would be received. Like it was a big bestseller. He's writing it as it's coming out. So I think if I slowed down my reading pace, um, I at least would have enjoyed the part that I read much more. Um, how about you? How about some books that you didn't finish this year?
A lot. Yeah. I often start books to sort of like dip my toe into them and then either give up or like say I'll come back to it later or something like that. But I tried JR because it was like a really popular booktube project. Um, I hope to come back to it, but I couldn't finish it. Similar story for Pinchin Against the Day. Um,
Okay.
I read a bunch of that. Like really interesting. Actually, probably like top of my list to get back into because I actually really enjoyed Against the Day. But didn't finish it. Um, I have a video with Steve on my channel where we talked about the JFK assassination, and I showed him how I read like the beginning and the end of Reclaiming History, which is like this massive 1,000-page tome about the JFK assassination. I don't intend to read that cover to cover, but I enjoyed the beginning and the end, which I read. And then I started reading some of the complete essays of Montaigne.
Oh yeah.
Those are interesting. Didn't finish it. I don't know if I'll go back to those anytime soon. But I was
With
just
Montaigne, at least, that's not a book that you finish.
right. Yeah, of course, just
Um,
like his essays. So that's definitely true. But yeah, that was an interesting experience. I'm glad like I tasted that, you know. And then the last one that I wrote down, which I really enjoyed, and I do need to finish at some point. But it's a harder read for me. Is A City of God by Saint Augustine.
okay.
Um, Really interesting book. And it's like Saint Augustine is like this theologian, like early Christianity, like describing theology, early Christian theology, and he's like explaining the transition that's like being made between like the classical mythological theology and like Christian theology. Um,
So
it
they're
was
right up your alley.
Yeah, it was really interesting. The only thing though is I felt how lacking my knowledge of like classical just like the classic writings of like ancient Greece and Rome are. Like I have it, I'm not so well read in that area, and I just felt like if I came back to City of God with a better understanding of like all those reference points, I would get more out of it, you know.
I've had a similar experience. I spent the whole month of November reading these Roman texts, and I constantly had that same exact feeling of I don't have enough um, background knowledge. I'm not informed enough to because I was constantly being like just confused. Um, and I would have this like carousel of potential resolutions and think, well, what I should do is I would just read the whole of Livy, or well, I no, I won't do that. I'll read Tacitus, or I'll read the biographies by Plutarch, and I feel like what it comes down to is like just spending time with the book that you have, um, and letting it do its work. That's sort of a big takeaway that I had uh, with those Roman books was to be patient with what I'm reading. Uh, do you ever have that feeling like uh, either become like insatiable or unrealistic? um,
Yeah. I totally relate, and I think you're right. I think the resolution ultimately is just to be accepting of what you have and where you're at in the book that you're reading. But like when I was reading City of God, I was thinking to myself like, man, if I I had a deep understanding of like the classics, uh, I would get so much out of this book, and I would have like a, in my mind, I'd be able to conceptualize what it meant to like go from like this, ancient, mythological theology to Christianity and like really understand like, and I was like so caught up in what I could be getting out of it, but like
Right.
ultimately, a lot of it went over my head.
So just out of curiosity, do you know, so you're aware of these gaps. Are you aware of the corresponding writers that plug in those gaps?
No, not really.
Okay.
It's such a big gap that I mean, like Livy, I'm like, I'm vaguely aware, like, Plutarch's Lives. I've read some of Plutarch's Lives, um, a while back, not, and there's probably like, so many others, that I can't even list off the top of my head. Yeah. Well, but what you
You,
tell me, what should I be thinking about in terms of filling those gaps?
oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Um, as far as like the mythologies go, um, I would think, the Metamorphosis by Ovid, uh, would cover the groundwork of the Greek and Roman mythology, just in,
Right. I've read a lot of it. I'm not sure if I finished it, but yeah.
um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not the person. I'm not the person to
Yeah.
ask. I'm still working up my own mountain.
Right.
Uh,
That's good.
you mentioned two things. William Gaddis,
Hmm.
um, and I this year I bought the Recognitions and JR. They're the NYRB classics, these big, beautiful, books, and, uh, just like you, all of a sudden, all these YouTubers talking about the books and how great he is and all of that. Um, I bought them on two separate occasions. I really wanted to get Recognitions, and then the other one was sort of an accident. I haven't touched them. I go, this is just beautiful. I'll just put it right there.
Yeah.
uh, but I started reading Mason and Dixon,
Hmm.
um, which, I read maybe 100 pages of it. Um, and I really enjoyed it. I was never reading it as my primary book, which is why it kind of washed off my radar. Um, but I would really like to go back to Mason and Dixon. Have you read that one?
No, I haven't read any. Oh, I've read the Crying of Lot something 9. That's a Thomas. It's a very small Pynchon book. 39
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah.
I don't remember which number.
I think it's 49.
49. Yeah, I think that's right. I read the Crying of Lot 49, but that's it. Yeah.
This evening, I started reading, Death on the Installment Plan by Celine.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, it's one of my when I think about my 20s, it was one of my favorite books of my 20s. Just like uproariously funny and raw and caustic and, um, inappropriate and grotesque and like all the things that a young boy wants to be reading.
Hmm.
Um, and I just started reading it. I might just carry on, um, and have that be my next big book. But, um, it's still really good. Like it has this raw emotional edge. Um, the narrator is quite funny.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, you've talked about Selena a few times on your channel, and every time you talk about it, I'm like, I should read it, but I've never picked it up.
He has a really interesting, style. It's a distinctive style that if you look at the page itself, um, you immediately recognize it as Celine, um, almost exclusively for his use of the ellipses.
Mm,
So he has all these broken thoughts, and then the whole page hundreds of pages are just covered with these little ellipses everywhere. So it's like this mad raving lunatic screaming at you.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard you, yeah, describe it that way. That's really cool. That's really cool.
What are your thoughts on the upcoming year? Things that you've missed and still want to get to, goals that you've had, anything like that?
Yeah, so I would love to get better as an interviewer. I see a lot of room for improvement there. Um, and I hope to, yeah, I mean, as these things go hand in hand, but as I get better, I hope to get more recognizable names on my channel. So it's sort of like these things have to happen. First I have to get better, and then I have to probably attract a somewhat larger audience. And then once that's happens, then it should be easier, hopefully, to start getting like more recognizable authors. Or but that's one big goal. Um, I think I had a second goal in mind a second ago, but I forgot it. Slipped my mind. How about you? What are your goals?
Um, as far as anything channel related, I don't have any big changes. Of course, I have the same thought of wanting to improve on my communication skills, to talking in front of the camera. Um, I still don't want to do any preparation. I still don't want to take any notes. I actually think um, the idea of being able to collect my thoughts is a really good mental exercise, just in life in general. Um, and I think having a little channel helps me with that. Um, so my channel is getting close to 4,000 subscribers, which I'm really happy about as well. Um, I was just watching a YouTuber that like I had never seen before. It was just like on my feed as like a recommendation. Um, they had some like catchy, like snappy thumbnail, and I started watching it, and you would have thought this guy was like the biggest deal.
Hmm.
He's talking about his audience, and people are saying things to him, and he was like this really big deal, and he was charismatic. And I like look at the subscription count, and like he's talking about getting talking to publishers and authors and all this stuff, and he had 5,000 subscribers.
You're
And
almost
like
there.
well, I wonder, I think like and I don't want books from publishers. I don't think like, and unless they just want to buy books off my Amazon wish list.
Hmm.
you know um but it's like really interesting to think like, one, how someone sees themselves. Like, oh, like hot shot guy with 5,000 subscribers. um and also how it does mean something. There's something really meaningful about um having a community of people that are interested in talking about the same things. So I don't want to make a complete light of it, but um, I was just talking to my friend Ben recently, because my channel is like grown, and so um, I'm very comfortable. Like I'm more comfortable now in front of the camera than I was when I started.
Hmm.
But if I had made like if I had a channel like 2 videos, 10 videos, and then for some reason I had um, some accidental viral video and then just like shot up to 4,000, I would have been petrified
Mm.
3 years ago to have 4,000 subscribers. Um, but instead of like, I just sort of plug along like a donkey, just a little bit bigger. Um, I feel good, and it's still just a really positive overall experience. Um, for what I want to read next year, it's still a sort of a collection of the greatest hits. Like I still want to read the Canterbury Tales. I still want to read Livy, a lot. I'm really interested in, like we were talking about, getting a better foothold on the classics, like the um, ancient Greek and Roman classics. Um, um, as far as like normal, I want to read more Spanish literature,
Nice.
um,
Ooh.
and that's the thing. It's so tough. There's a huge um, there's a huge obviously like a huge wealth of Spanish literature to be read. I have a tough time finding it because I want to read uh, works from Spain.
Mhm.
So not Argentina, not Chile, nothing against them, but uh, and there's like works that I find that haven't been translated.
Mm.
Uh, but um, my plan for Spain, for visiting Spain, is because my girlfriend lives in Spain. We're thinking like early next year, um, and um, my plan is, or our plan, we're going to set the date and all that, have the uh, flight schedule, um, probably in advance, like a month in advance. We'll know all the dates and everything. I'm going to read Don Quixote Part 1. And then Don Quixote Part 2 will be, not that I expect to do too much reading while I'm there, but it's a long flight. Um, and so Don Quixote Part 2 will be my book while I'm in Spain.
I love Don Quixote.
It's the
You're,
best.
yeah. Have you read it already?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so you can reread it. Nice. Yeah, Don Quixote is
yeah.
amazing. That's wonderful. Yeah.
I was talking to my girlfriend because initially my idea was like, I'll just take Don Quixote and that'll be my book. And then I thought, well, I'll read the first half and then I'll have the second half. And I thought there was like this really great like byproduct, like a social byproduct of walking around Spain. I'm holding Don Quixote, so I already get points. But since I'm reading part two, the bookmark is much farther into the book. So
More
anyone that would
points.
look, anyone would look and go, "Oh, he's actually reading it. He's in the middle of
Right.
this thing."
Yeah. That's awesome.
Um,
I love it.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to the trip. That's going to be
Yeah.
the just the best thing.
I'm
Um,
excited for you. I'm really excited for you. That's awesome.
and yeah, meeting her in person.
Yeah. That's great. What was what were some of the highlights? The best books. What was the best book you read this year?
So I mentioned Lord of the Rings. Um, I was really happy to read um, the Iliad and the Odyssey. I've read them both before, but I was really happy to read them so closely together. Um, it, it really added a lot to have a picture of Homer's world. Um, maybe the most fun I've had reading a book this year um, was a new read. It was Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. Have you read that or anything by Jules Verne?
Nope.
It was just like romping good fun.
Nice. Nice. I've heard. Yeah, I've heard it's like that.
At the very beginning, they go, we have a madcap adventure. We're going to go around the world in 80 days. And then in chapter 2, you get this like panoramic, um, like highlights or headline series of like what the newspapers are saying about the adventure. And it just made the whole thing feel like um, like there's a buzz in the air. Everyone's talking about this madman
Hmm.
go around the world in 80 days. And it was just a really fun book. I haven't read anything else by Jules Verne, um, but really good.
Nice.
How about you? Favorite book of the year, best book, most fun?
Oh man, I don't know. I asked the question, but I didn't have an answer. It's not a good sign. So I'm like right now, I'm scanning my list. A lot of good stuff. This wasn't my favorite book. Well, I mean, read it. I can think of a few books that weren't my favorite, but like I'm really glad I read. So like I read The Gambler by Dostoevsky, um, which was new to me. And yeah, I mean, I don't think it's Dostoevsky's best book, but like, I'm really glad I read it. Um, and I read I read what's it called? The Passion According to GH by Clarice Lispector. So
Uh,
like Noah, of Everyone Who Reads It Must First, for example, is like a really big fan of this book, and it is just like far out weirdness. It is super far out. It's like a relatively thin book, and it's just like this woman who like has a major crisis, like a major because she like killed a cockroach, and she's like just watching this cockroach die and like having a freak out crisis. It's like it's wild, you
huh.
know. So like
Is that what that's what the book's about?
that's it. Yeah, that's it. She like just starts where like the maid left and she like is cleaning up and she like sees a cockroach. She's like scared. She like slams the door and the whole book is just like her like narrating her
Huh.
experience of, like watching the cockroach die.
What's the name of it again?
The Passion According to GH.
Huh. Certainly,
Wild.
it's intriguing.
It is intriguing. I almost made a video about it. I was very close. I have like a whole bunch of notes on the book. But yeah, ultimately it was hard. It's a hard video to make a video. It's a hard book to make a video about. Um, and it's intense. Maybe I should
So
revisit it. Yeah.
you said it was short, right?
Yeah, it's pretty short. Yeah. I mean, I remember it being like, I don't know exactly, but like I mean, I could be wrong. So like, if I'm wrong, then whatever. I remember being like 150 pages or something, like pretty short. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so that stuck with me as like a crazy book that I read this year.
Trying to think of the craziest book. Uh, I don't know. I don't know if I could think of the craziest book that I read. Um, oh, I'll have to skip on that. I didn't have an answer.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
No worries.
Did you have any particular um, any video or video series that was difficult to make this year?
Mm. I think it was this year. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. We had a great read along of 100 Years of Solitude. I don't you were I want to say you were a participant, but I could be wrong. I remember you being a participant
Like sort of unofficially.
unofficially.
Yeah.
Um, so you asked, it was like hard videos to make. I think that was the question you asked. There was definitely challenges. I remember. I think nothing really stands out. Nothing really stands out. But I that was like one of the last. Yeah, 100 Years of Solitude was the last book on my channel where I made more than one video about it. So like I made like a series of videos on Moby Dick. I made a series of videos on Life of Samuel Johnson.
Karamazov brothers.
Right, exactly. A whole bunch of videos on Dostoevsky books. And so yeah, this was like I made two videos I think on 100 Years of Solitude. And since then, this is like pretty much towards the beginning of the year. It's like almost a year ago. Since then, I've been always asking myself, what's my next big reading and video essay project going to be? You know, and I've had some ideas. Like I thought maybe I would do uh, the Origins of Totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt, which is like a really dense nonfiction book, which I've actually only read half of so far because it's like so dense. I thought maybe I would like try that or something, but I never found anything. I never like nothing really grabbed me. for that project. So I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the next book where I can like do a
See,
series of videos.
I would love for you to do like a deep dive into the City of God.
Mm,
And so like have a video series where you have your starting point. You feel like you don't really know what's going on. You have gaps, and to just see like the evolution of someone kind of getting into the book and seeing if by the end of the book you have that same feeling. Like I think that would be a really interesting video series. Um,
yeah. Thank you for that recommendation. Yeah, I was on my that was a book that when I was reading, I was like, this might be it. This could I would love to do a series of videos on the City of God. It was so interesting. Um, so thank you for that nudge. I'm really gonna seriously consider that. That might be the one. We'll see. But yeah, so it could be City of God, but I'm still looking. I'm still trying to figure it out.
I've really enjoyed. I, I love when you do those video essays. You come up with a topic and um, pull a novel out in different directions. So it's not just here's the first 50 pages, here's the second 50 pages. Um, I found for myself, uh, depending on the book, because that's what matters. Um, Breaking it into a longer format, I do think just yields just so much more possibility and interesting results and a more free form way of um, talking at length.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. And it's obviously mutual. I think you do a similar kind of thing. And you break the book usually up, I think, into sections, but that works too, of course. And but yeah, I appreciate the compliment. And like I said, it goes both ways. Yeah.
I I did my own video on 100 Years of Solitude, and I did the first half, and
Mm.
it was 50 Years of Solitude.
Right. I love that. That's great. That was awesome. Yeah. You didn't like the book, I think, right? Did you like it or didn't you like it?
um,
I remember you described like a train running by and you like catch glimpses of the past. Was that you?
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that. I thought that was an amazing analogy. I thought it was brilliant.
I,
Yeah.
I I didn't like it as much as a lot of the people that were reading at the time did. Um, I do want to read more Marquez, um, but I remember it being really fast paced, confusing. I can't remember the name, but like every character has one name.
Jose Arcadio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Um,
Yeah.
and like the reason I didn't do a second video was I also felt like the novel was fairly repetitive.
Hmm.
Um, so and I will say it's a book that I would definitely go back to, um, because there was a lot to admire. It's not like it's a bad book, but um, it didn't knock my socks off the
Hmm.
first time I read it.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. When you look back at this year, let's say 10 years from now, what are you going to remember about the year 2021?
Well, one of the highlights, as far as the reading year, was my uh, book book club series with Steve Donahue. Um, re- that's the reason I read all those comic books, reading um, the ancient works, reading the Iliad and Odyssey, and um, reading them with having it in mind that I'm going to be making videos, but also thinking, well, here's a guy that's read everything. He knows these things backwards and forwards, and can talk at length and um, be knowledgeable and entertaining and all that. And so, like reading it and thinking, uh, like I'm sort of having a conversation with Steve, and uh, like reading the Iliad and thinking, like I really want to be on my game. I want to be reading this, and I want to have the best time reading it. But you know, read more deeply. Um, and for the better part of the year, we had something that we're reading every month, and it was great. Um, so it's like a collection of a bunch of things, but it was a great reading series. Um, for you, I imagine, at least for your channel, um, the pivot into the interviewing. Oh, I should ask what what is the most memorable part of the year?
Yeah, so certainly in the bookish realm, definitely the pivoting to interviewing, like you said, that was a big change, and I'm really happy with it. It's fun. It's a fun experience to be able to talk with authors, after reading a book that I admire, and there's so much to learn there, like there's so much figuring out how to have these conversations, how to prepare properly, and I see myself as just still learning, like with a lot of room to improve. And yeah, go ahead. Okay, sorry. I thought I probably got some static in the headphone or something that like I thought was you interjecting. And then beyond that, yeah, I think I'll look back at this year as a really good year in terms of just feeling more like I guess like I developed like a meditation practice over the year a little bit, which I think was good for me. So like it sort of like translates into like feeling like just like healthier psychologically in a lot of ways. So hopefully that will carry forward. But it was a good year in that regard also, I think.
Okay, so I think that we started with the Buddhism and the meditating, didn't we?
Maybe.
I think we did.
Okay.
Yeah, it's sort of like a holistic conclusion. Um, as far as what is that ancient Buddhist text? Is it the Dhammapada?
I don't know. Might be. I'm not sure.
Dhammapada? I think I have a copy of it somewhere. Are you reading like the ancient like Buddhist texts?
No,
No.
I probably should, but I'm not.
Well, yeah, I think having peace of mind is a goal that you always have to work on.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
um, I think we both had a great year.
I think so too. It sounds like it. It
Do you want to wrap up or?
Yeah, Matthew, it's so awesome checking in with you and just, getting to talk with you about books and
I
it's
always
always
love our conversations.
I love it.
Um, I was thinking as far as the reason why we're doing this now. Um, when you make kind of videos like this, or if you just have that um, reflective period in your mind, you think it's the end of the year, how'd everything go? When you make videos, you kind of think about that. And I thought, like, it's so much more fun if you can have a conversation. And so we've had a handful of conversations now, and it's always great.
Yeah, always a real pleasure. It's always great talking to you.
So I'll wrap up. I'll say, let us know about your reading year, how everything wrapped up for you. If you would like, thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you would like. Um, and thank you and take care. Amin, do you want to say goodbye?
Yeah, goodbye. And have a great year. End of year. Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays and happy new year.